Mark Keane here. I'm going to show you how to set up ASR on ARM. Just log in right now. It's brand new. In case you don't know what ASR is, it's Azure Site Recovery, and ARM is Azure Resource Manager. The reason why it's a hot topic at the moment is the brand new CSP licensing scheme that Microsoft has. Everybody was complaining the fact that Azure Site Recovery wasn't available on the CSP, and CSP is basically ARM. So it's literally come out just last week, and we're going to go through today and set this up. Now, it's dramatically improved. Originally with ASM, the classic, you had to have two servers in Azure, a master target server and a configuration server, and you had to have a server on-prem, which was a process server for all scenarios except for the case if you had a Hyper-V environment. You could get away with not having a process server on premise, and in that case you just needed the two servers in Azure. But now they've changed all that, and so rather than having servers up in Azure, you have one single server down on-prem, which has to be fairly grunty, because previously, before, the master target server had to be the grunty server, but this one has to be fairly grunty, and I think minimum is 16 gigs of RAM is what they're recommending. It is a configuration server, and when you install the configuration server, it also becomes the process server by default. So let's go through and set this up together, shall we? So we're just in the new portal in Azure, and if you've noticed, we've got here, it says MS at the beginning. Generally, it's normally just portal.azure.com, although if you're like me and like to live on the edge with technology, if you put an MS dot before portal.azure.com, you'll hit the new preview of the new portal. And we bring this up, I think it's in here, or it might be management. Here it is here. So backup and site recovery OMS is now what it's called. I think I've already created it. Yes, I have. And there's the resource of Azure Site Recovery. It's already created. It's set up. It's literally brand new. It's got no configuration on there at all. So we'll go across a couple of blades here. And on the right-hand side, it's fairly straightforward. It's under Getting Started. What you can see here, you click on Site Recovery, and you follow the steps. Now, I would recommend doing this on the server on-prem, which you want to make the configuration server, because you need to download the setup. And now that I'm logged in here, it's quite straightforward. It's quite easy to download it, because I don't have to sign in again or copy the stuff across, or copy the install files across to the server. I can download it straight on the actual server itself. So this is where we are. We're actually on a server I've got earmarked as the configuration server. We need a 600 gig drive, same as before. That part hasn't changed. So if I go into disk management, I should have a 600 gig drive here waiting for me to initialize. And we'll use that. That's for the caching part of it. Let's minimize that and come back to it. All right, back to the Azure portal. On the right-hand side, it's got Protection Goal. It's fairly straightforward. Where do you want to replicate your machines to? Azure, yes. With VMware vSphere Hypervisor, or Hyper-V, or other. Now, we've got VMware, so I'm just going to choose the middle one, because it's VMware at the moment. So it says here that no configuration servers were found. We'll add one, and it gives you the steps here that you need to follow. So you see here, it's got download Microsoft Azure Site Recovery Unified Setup. Unified meaning that all the roles are together on the one server. So that's what we want to download. And we'll pause this video and come back to it. This is another prerequisite you need, is this software here. You need to actually sign in to this website to be able to download the software that you need, the prerequisite for Azure Site Recovery with ARM. I remembered I had an account. If you don't have an account, sign up for an account. So let's download this now, release candidate 3, and go through the motions of installing that. Alrighty, it's finished downloading. I'm going to hit run and set up this software. All right, finished downloading the Azure Site Recovery Unified Setup. Let's go show in folder, and we will run this and go through the motions of setting it up. Now, I haven't actually done this before, so this is new to me as well. By the look of it, it's gonna be much more streamlined and easy than before, I would guess. With anything Microsoft, normally the release after the first release, the second release, and the third release, they tend to get better and better. First question, install the configuration server and process server. We're going to do that one. Okay, it's asking here to install third-party software, MySQL. Yep, I accept. Server is connected to the internet. Connect directly without a proxy. Yes. Whoa, okay. First thing has failed. I have a pending restart. And we're back. The server's been rebooted. I've logged in, logged back into the Azure Portal, gone through the steps again to site recovery, prepare the infrastructure, add the configuration server. I need to also download this Vault registration key. Now that's good for, used to be 2 days. I think it's now good for 4 days. This is a demo environment only. I'm only backing up or replicating 2 servers in the environment. This server has only got about 8 gigs of RAM, although they do recommend 16 gigs. There is an article online which walks you through this as well. Okay, doing a quick prerequisite check. Now, I think it's going to fail down the bottom. The reason for that is because it says there you need a drive which has more than 600 gigs of space. Now, the drive that I've provisioned was exactly 600 gigs. Now, because it's Windows, I've just lost 1 or 2 gigs. So it is actually 600 gigs really, minus a couple of gigs. But you know what? Setup doesn't look at it that way. Right, asking for a root password for MySQL. Something really easy, as it's a demo and I don't want to forget it. Okay, but it's also asking for a special character. So let's put something else in here. And hopefully I don't forget that. Next, yes. It's going to check if we've got the Power CLI installed. Yes, because we've just installed that. Next, okay, install location. We'll leave it on the S drive. So the S drive is the new drive in which we added to this computer, which has, well, 600 gigs, close enough. We'll have another look. There you go, 598. So yeah, perfect. That will do. Next, select the network interface card and port for receiving replication traffic. That will do. This is going to be receiving replication traffic on the same network. So what I have done, just so you can have a quick look. If we open up the Windows firewall, I have got a firewall in front of me anyway, like another firewall. So this machine here is not directly on the internet, so I've turned off the Windows firewall so I don't have any issues connecting. Next, okay, Vault registration key. This is the one we downloaded before. If we go to downloads, this is it here. Next, and install. So we've done all the steps of the setup. Install type configuration server and process server environment VMware. Install location is going to be on the S drive, which has 598 gigs of space. All right, so it's going to go through and settle this up. It says it's going to take around 5 minutes. We'll come back when it's finished and give you an update. All right, and we're back. It's finished installing the Azure Site Recovery installation. It took a little while because it had to do lots and lots of things. MySQL, third-party components, the configuration server, process server together, and the master target server all together. So let's finish that. It says here we need to restart the server, but we won't restart the server just yet. We'll do that shortly because this configuration box has just popped up. Let's do this. Add accounts. This is so we can talk to the local environment, our servers that we want to replicate. So it's quite simple. I have a demo environment, have a work group. So I'll just put in work group for a username and password. Username will be /administrator. It's quite easy. Password is something also very easy. Okay, that's the first one. And the next account we're going to add in is similar, but it's for the domain that I've got. So I'll just call it domain. Username is test/administrator. Password is also very, very easy because it is only a demo environment. Click OK, and that should do those. So we've got one local, one domain. Cool. So we can go in there and add the account that we need to for VMware. There we go. So it's 3 accounts, one for the VMware vSphere server or vCenter, either or. Also the domain account. It's pretty much all your accounts that you need. You can click on Vault Registration tab and browse to the Vault configuration file, and then click on Register. Right, now just in case you lose that accounts wizard where you add the accounts in and add the Vault in, this is how you find it. So you go to the install directory of Azure Site Recovery, go to the S drive, program files, x86, Azure Site Recovery, home, SVS systems, bin, that's the location for it, and then you open up this file here, CSPS config tool, and this is where all the information lives in here. So this is how you can get back to it in case you need to and add more accounts. All right, once the configuration is all complete on the on-premises server for Azure Site Recovery, the unified setup, you then head back to the Azure Portal. Now at this stage, remember we've imported the Vault file, the credentials, into the on-premises server, and we've registered the server with Azure. So the Azure Portal should know all about the server. So if we go back into the resource group, open up the resource for Azure Site Recovery, and go across to getting started. Click on Site Recovery over here. Step 1, prepare infrastructure. Now, if we go through these questions here, we want to replicate machines to Azure from VMware vSphere, and here we can see our server on premises, which we couldn't see before. Now that we've registered the server, Azure knows about it, and that's the name of the server right there. So the next thing we need to do is move forward, and we need to add in the other part of this, which is the vCenter server. So if we click on that, we can then add in vCenter or vSphere. So you can use a vCenter server, or you can use a single vSphere host. Now we are using VMware vSphere ESXi, the free edition, and it does work with that. So we just type in a friendly name. I'll put in vSphere in the friendly name box. I'll put in the IP address of the server. It's port 443. Now the drop down box here for which account to use, I select VMware. This is the account that we created using that wizard on the server on-prem. We added the 3 accounts in, and the VMware account, this is where you use it. So we click OK to this, and what will happen is the Azure Portal will make the connection through to your VMware environment, just exactly the same as you would as if you're using this tool here, which you might be familiar with. You put the username and password in here, the same IP address. The Azure Portal is essentially doing exactly the same thing and connecting through to your VMware vSphere server. Okay, and that is done. We've added our vCenter server in here. The vSphere server. It's added in. The portal has gone ahead and logged into it and seen it and talked to it, and there it is. We can see it. So we're happy. We've got a configuration server in there and VMware all configured. So we click OK to that. All right, number 3 step, the target. We can see here the top is already configured and filled out for us, Azure subscription. The step 2 here, the storage account is already filled out as well because it's found a compatible storage account. We can add another one if we want. It's LRS, local redundant storage, or GRS, geo redundant storage, which is compatible. And down the bottom as well, it's just asking us about a compatible virtual network. If there is one, it'll basically show it. If there's 2 compatible ones, it'll show 2 compatible. That's all it is. It's just doing a check to see if we've got both a compatible storage account and a compatible virtual network. That's pretty much it at this stage. Okay, now step 4, which is the replication policy. I'm going to go up the top here and create and associate a policy. I'll give it a test name, so I call it demo policy, something simple. Leave all the defaults as is for the purpose of the demonstration. I'm going to click OK. It's going to add that in, which it is now. It'll take a few moments to add in, so I'll let that finish and I'll come back. All right, so it's just completed adding in the replication policy. It takes a few moments to do that. Click OK, moving on to the final step of preparing the infrastructure. It's all about capacity planning. Yes, I'm going to say I've done that. There are capacity planning tools you can download and things. We won't go into those in detail here, but you can actually go through and make sure you've got all the environment spec'd as needed. So there's the infrastructure planning or preparation done. So we're going to move on to the second step, which is replicate application, and go through the 5 steps here. The first one is all filled in by default, so that's an easy one. We're going to click OK. Okay, step 2 here, most of this is all filled out already for us, but it's all about the recovery settings, a subscription, the deployment model, leave it as resource manager. We don't want classic. Storage account, I'll leave it as default, the one that we had before, that's fine. The Azure network, we can configure this or configure this later. We're going to configure this now. This is the virtual network, which is chosen for when the virtual machines are failed over or recovered. So this is where they come up on. Now, you got to keep in mind too about IP address conflicts and things like that, whether the virtual network that we select here has a site-to-site VPN to your on-prem environment. Maybe you do want everything to come across with the same IP addresses or whichever else, but so just keep that in the back of your mind. You also have the option here to select a specific subnet. So I'll leave all that as default for the purposes of the demonstration and click OK. It's asking here to select the virtual machines that I would like to protect. Now, these are the virtual machines I've got on-prem in my environment. It's automatically picked them up from the process server, which we've installed. So I can go through here and I can select whichever virtual machines I want protected. So this one's my process server on premise. This is the unified setup. I'll leave that as is. I'm not going to protect that one because that's for this. This is my firewall, routing and remote access server. I'll leave that as is too. This is my domain controller, DC, so I'll protect that one. This is my sync server, AD Connect, so I'll protect that one as well. So I'll do 2 servers for protection, click OK. The properties here, this is the account to use for these servers. So I can select an account at the top, which will apply to all of the servers, domain account, or I can select like an individual account here on each one. So, but I know these 2 servers are attached to the domain, so I'm going to use my domain account. And on the right hand side, it's got disks to replicate. So I can go in here and I can select all the disks, or I can uncheck certain disks. Now, this is a welcome addition because previously we didn't have that ability to deallocate certain disks from replication. If you had like a VM with a large disk on there, you couldn't take that out before and say, I don't want to replicate that disk, but now you can. You have that option. By default, they're all selected. So we'll click OK to that. And the last step, number 5, is the replication settings. It's a policy, which is the one we created. And about multi-VM consistency. So the rest of it, I'm going to click OK to this because we're happy with that. And I'm going to click down the bottom here where it says Enable Replication. And it goes through and sets that up. And we'll come back once that's done. All right, that's done. It's enabled a protection. So what we can do, we can go through here, scroll down a little bit and have a look at replicated items under protected items. And we can see our servers that we have selected. They are sitting here at 0% synchronized. Now, the reason for that is because I've actually got to do the replication part. Now that takes a little while depending on your network connection on the on-premises environment, the upload speed. It could take overnight, could take longer depending on how many servers and how fast your internet connection is. We can refresh, it's still setting at 0. Health is okay, so that's good. The communication is there, it's all working. If we click into one of these servers, we can have a look, information of the server. We can see properties. We can see information about the server itself, the target role size, how much it's going to be, the matching for it. We can have a look at the compute and the network part of it. It's fetching it now. So nothing yet because the protection is in progress. We can click on disks and have a look at all the disks that are synchronizing currently in real time. C drive, and there's 2 disks, 2 data disks in here as well. So there's quite a few options that it's got, and once the replication has completely caught up to 100% and it's fully up to date, we've got all these other options here. We can do an unplanned failover, we can do a test failover, and we can do a whole bunch of things here. So this is it. This is a new Azure Site Recovery, all part of Azure Resource Manager, and it's all on CSP as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and best of luck.